Welcome in to the Rockies Insider. I am your Rockies Insider, Patrick Lyons. And on Monday's show, we will, of course, preview Game 3 of the 2024 World Series. The Dodgers are up 2-0 as the series shifts back to New York, to the Bronx. Yankee Stadium, a must-win game for not only the Yanks, but a must-perform game for a certain center fielder. Mr. Aaron Judge, how bad has he been this postseason, this World Series? He needs to respond. He needs to get his team right. But let's get things started with some news about the Colorado Rockies. What do you know? We're a Rockies podcast, so let's talk about it. We've got a little bit of news, not an update necessarily. Actually, it is an update. It's not really news. Where are the Rockies going to play next year in 2025 on opening day? They're going to have to wait until Christmas to find out. That is the word on the street, according to Commissioner Rob Manfred. So hardly the street. But the commish talking during the World Series that, quote, they're still in the damage assessment mode, referring to Tropicana Field, which was damaged, of course, 2 weeks ago by Hurricane Milton. So that Teflon roof completely blown off, completely destroyed. Will it be an easy thing to salvage to get the roof back on? And if so, will it be in time for opening day, late March 2025 for Rays Rockies? Now, Manfred said that there's several options in the Tampa area, the Tropicana Field area, if you will. So it does seem as if he does want the Rays to stay in Florida on the Gulf side of things. They include either playing at a minor league facility or spring training facility, according to Jesse Rogers of ESPN, saying that either Tampa, where the Tampa Tarpons play, and the New York Yankees train for spring training, could be one of those sites, along with Clearwater, Florida, home of the Phillies spring training, and Dunedin, Florida, home of the Toronto Blue Jays, a place in which the Blue Jays played half of their 2021 season right after the pandemic. Actually, not half the season. I think it was a little bit less than half. But ultimately, 2020, they played in Buffalo. And then 2021, because minor league was back, the Buffalo Bisons still needed their home stadium, their home facility. We had the Blue Jays playing in Dunedin in a ballpark that had undergone a $100 million renovation. So they had now one of the best complexes in all of minor league baseball, according to CEO and President Mark Shapiro. So Rob Manfred said that, there would be some conflict possibly between these minor league schedules and the Tampa Bay Rays schedules, but Major League Baseball is going to work around that. Jonathan, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for dropping by. Appreciate you. If you got any questions, drop them into the chat. But I talked last week about this idea that, if the Rays end up playing in Miami, you've got an overlap of close to 50 dates. And you could get creative with some doubleheaders, but even still, it is a lot of conflict. Same thing is going to happen in the minor league schedule, where the minor leagues teams are home from Tuesday to Sunday, and then they might be away for another week, but it's pretty much 1 week home, 1 week away. Even if it is 2 weeks away, you're going to have conflict the other week of the season in which you're back-to-back weeks at home. So Major League Baseball, now that minor league baseball is under the Major League umbrella, previously it wasn't. It's really its own separate entity that Major League Baseball did business with. Now, minor league baseball is under the Major League umbrella. This is going to allow Manfred basically to alter the schedule of someone like Dunedin if they need to do that, the Dunedin Blue Jays. And actually, I think that's where the Rockies are going to be playing opening day next year against the Rays. I think the damage is going to be too much, especially if they're not making a decision by Christmas. That really does suggest that you've got a very tight window of 3 months to be able to fix the roof at Tropicana Field. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Now, it did get me to thinking, and I got a really good question in the chat talking about Game 3 tonight. I like where this person's head's at. Let's get to it in just a moment about Game 3 and Aaron Judge and the Yankees. But it got me thinking, how many different ballparks have the Rockies played at? I don't know if, before I look the answer up, how close I would have come. It also depends on how long I would have spent thinking about this. But here's where the number breaks down. Here's the rationale that you might have out here. Pause this if you want to guess how many ballparks the Rockies have played a major league game at. Minor league's going to, I don't even know if I can calculate that. But major league games, how many different ballparks have the Rockies played at? Well, in the last 2 years alone, they've played at all 30 ballparks because of a balanced schedule. So, okay, you've got all 30 that are active right now. Factor in about 19 more ballparks because Coors Field is the 11th oldest ballpark in all of MLB. It's the third oldest in the National League. Think about that. For a stadium that feels like it is brand new, certainly feels that way when you go inside because it's been taken care of so incredibly well. It's the 11th oldest active stadium in MLB right now. So that means there's only 19 that are older, which suggests that the Rockies have played in the stadium that came before the 19 that came after. You've got 3 different ballparks that are that they played at in Atlanta. That's 2 extra there. Don't forget about Montreal. Rockies also played at Mile High Stadium. They had a one-off series against Houston last year, of course, in Mexico City at Alfredo Harp Helú Stadium. And then in 1999, Estadio Monterrey. So we are talking 51 different ballparks that the Colorado Rockies have played in their history. I find that to be interesting. Now, they lost both games against the Astros earlier this year in Mexico City, so they've never won a game there. They still could, but they were 0-3 in a 3-game series against the Yankees in 2004. And that stadium, whether you want to call it the original Yankee Stadium or Baseball Reference refers to as Yankee Stadium 2, because after the renovations that was done in the mid-70s to the original Yankee Stadium, that updated version of Yankee Stadium was very much different. So they sort of categorized it as a new stadium, especially when you consider the dimensions that were there. And the balls that went out into the monument were no longer in play. So it did play up like a new stadium. But the Yankees will never go back, or rather the Rockies will never be able to go back and win a game at that original Yankee Stadium. So that will forever remain the only ballpark in which they've never won a game. The Yankees are certainly hoping to win a game. And our buddy Jonathan in the chat with a great question. Will Aaron Judge get booed tonight at Yankee Stadium? I had not thought about this, but I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance. As crazy as it sounds, the guy who very well could be the unanimous MVP in the American League in 2024, there is a chance Yankees fans will boo him. Now, I think a lot of that could deal with the situation. If it's in the first inning, you might hear some smattering of boos. If it's in a spot with 2 outs or 1 out, he hits into a double play. That assumes he puts the ball in play and doesn't strike out. But if it comes at a costly time, or if the Yankees are trailing at that time, I think the guy who's going to be the MVP in the American League this year very well could get booed. That's how things go in New York. That's how things go in larger, more aggressive markets. Not just Yankees fans. There are other fans that would boo their players in that way. Not that many. But I think there's a chance that could happen. That's a storyline I now need to follow. Ace saying in the chat, Judge needs to wake up. He does. He's 1 for 9 so far in this series. Did go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts in game 2. Despite that, seen a prediction of Yankees in 7. Maybe. Conversely, in Philadelphia, they decided, according to our buddy Guillaume, hey, let's actually cheer on Trey Turner. As bad as he's been, and as much as we want to boo him, let's kind of do the opposite. Let's see what happens. And it absolutely worked. Snapped him out of his slump. In fact, I don't know where I saw this, but this has a Colorado tie. I believe it was the Telluride Film Festival this past summer. There was a documentary that was going around about the Phillies season in 2023, falling just short of the World Series, but nevertheless being something more about, hey, maybe us fans can have more of a positive impact. We could boo someone to let them know that they're not playing well. And I don't necessarily know that that's going to help the guy do better. They want to do well. They just can't figure it out. So you could voice your displeasure, or you could voice your support of that player. And that's what the Phillies ended up doing last year. So that was really interesting. 2022, I should say. But nevertheless, that's a documentary. I don't know where you could watch that. Forget what it's called, but there's a very boisterous Phillies fan that went around. You've probably seen him interviewing other Phillies fans. He's notable. But he was a part of that documentary that I'm sure will appear somewhere, if not MLB Network. You'll probably get a chance to see that. So Yankees have a must-win game here. Game 3 after losing Game 2. Fantastic performance by Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who actually helped out the Rockies a little bit. I'll tell you how in just a second. Yamamoto, going into the 7th inning, 6 1/3 innings pitched, only gave up 1 hit. That solo home run to Juan Soto. That was really his only mistake. Retired the next 11. After that, walked 2, struck out 4. Yamamoto now has the longest outing for a Japanese-born pitcher in World Series history. Who did he top? None other than Daisuke Matsuzaka in Game 3 of the 2007 World Series in Colorado at Coors Field. Rockies lost that one. So, hey, maybe that's a silver lining for Rockies fans, is that now they're not going to go down in infamy. A little bit less. Leonard saying in the chat, hopefully there will be visible support for Puerto Rican and Latino players in tonight's game. Sure, we did have the announcement today. Salvador Perez did win the Roberto Clemente Award with all the work he's doing with his community in Kansas City, Venezuela. That'll be a beautiful thing. Yeah, Juan Soto, of course, Dominican-born player. The Bronx, very passionate. And don't forget, there's going to be a performance before Game 3 by South Bronx's very own Fat Joe. And thank you, Guillaume. The Turnaround is what it's called. That's right. Yeah, I saw the content creator, the Phillies fan. He was in Colorado. I was like, what is this guy doing in Colorado? The Phillies aren't playing the Rockies. And that's why he was actually supporting this documentary that's out there. So check that out wherever it might be available. You might even be able to buy it right now. But Yamamoto in Game 2 is fantastic. 86 pitches. His most since, well, his last time pitching against the Yankees on June 7th when he threw 106 pitches. He had missed 3 months, of course, because of right shoulder discomfort, a right shoulder injury. So he's now looking really good. Should the rotation come back to him probably in a Game 6. And according to Sarah Lang, so Dodgers were up in this game early, 4-1 going into the 9th. And according to Sarah Lang's, teams with a 3-run or more lead going into the 9th inning are 340-0 in the World Series. Think about that. You got a 3-run lead in the 9th inning in the World Series, lock. That being said, it's probably going to happen this week. It's probably going to happen in this series now that it seems so incredibly improbable, especially when the Dodgers don't really have a true closer. They got some great guys, great relievers, great setup men, but no real closer. And the Yankees have a closer of the moment, and they used to have a closer in Clay Holmes. Their closer of the moment, Luke Weaver, he looked all right in Game 1, but this could happen in a longer series like this. Absolutely. Agree. Again, in the chat, Yankees have got to hit Buehler. And there's a good chance that happens here in Game 3, partially because, Buehler's missed a lot of time this year. Only had the 16 starts coming off of the Tommy John surgery that wiped away a majority of his 2022 season. 2023 didn't pitch at all. But he had a 5.38 ERA this year on the road. Not good. 7 starts. 6.53 ERA. This is his first time at Yankee Stadium. This is his first time facing the Yankees. You like what he's done in the postseason, somewhat. He wasn't good against the Padres. 5 innings, gave up 6 runs. Didn't strike out a batter. Against the Mets, looked a little more like the Walker Buehler of old. 4 innings pitched, no runs allowed, no walks, 6 strikeouts. He does have a 3.25 ERA in 17 starts this postseason, or rather in the postseason in his career. So this is the time of year where he steps up. He's going to be a free agent after this year. Not that he needs anything, not that he needs this boost going into free agency, but nevertheless, this is a big start for him to really, it won't be the final nail. It won't be the final nail in the Yankees' coffin, because until you win game 4, or rather you win the 4th game of the series, the Yankees have a chance to come back even from a 3-0 deficit. It's not a very big one, but it will be a very, very important one. Maybe, just maybe, as we're seeing in the chat, the Yankees have to rely on a Rockies reliever. Tommy Kahnle? Is he going to get a save in this series? We'll have to wait to find out. But the Dodgers are looking to be that team we've really expected them to be. It's why I had the Dodgers winning this series in 6, and I still think that the Yankees can go out and win 2 games. I might be leaning more towards only 1 game in New York that they win. But the bats need to come alive, and Aaron Judge needs to show up. He's 1 for 9 in the World Series. He's 6 for 40 in the postseason. He's only batting 150. He does have 2 homers, 1 double, 6 RBI, and 11 postseason games this year. And you like the 7 walks. You don't love it, but you like 7 walks. You hate the 19 strikeouts. That's nearly 50% of his at-bats are strikeouts. And with runners in scoring position, he's 0 for 10. So to go back to Jonathan in the chat, could Aaron Judge get booed tonight? It very well could happen. It very well could happen. This is almost a version of Double Dare where you're just daring yourself, Ace. If the Yankees win today and tomorrow, you'll dress up as Aaron Judge for Halloween. The Yankees will win tonight. I've got little doubt. The Yankees are going to win. Not just because they have to. Buehler right now, not too crazy about. And considering that the Dodgers are going to a bullpen game in game 4, I think Dave Roberts is going to give a longer leash to Buehler. So that's going to bode well for the Yankees, especially if Buehler is not on his game. So they're going to go a little longer there. Clark Schmidt also had an injury-plagued season this year, but he was good, 2.85 ERA. Now, he wasn't able to get through the 5th inning in either of his first 2 starts this postseason, but teams that are down 2-0 in the World Series, the numbers are pretty favorable that they win game 3. 57 times a club has taken a 2-0 advantage into game 3 of the World Series. And the team that's down 0-2, they win 56.1% of the time. Take that for what it's worth. Now, the team that's ahead still goes on to win the World Series 45 times out of those previous 56 occurrences. So that's 80% of the time. So Dodgers are going to win this World Series, I think. But the Yankees are going to make it interesting tonight and win game 3 at home. Derek Jeter, they're pulling out the big guns right away. Derek Jeter, you thought maybe they would save him a little bit? No. First game in New York, down 0-2. Jeter's going to throw the first pitch out tonight. Fat Joe's going to sing. I don't know if it's going to be as good as Ice Cube. Fat Joe is just not, it's not in the same realm. I don't know what Jay-Z was doing. Could you go back and do Empire State of Mind? I mean, you did in 2009 when the song was actually brand new. But nevertheless, I think the Yankees have to win. I think the Yankees are going to win. And it's helpful right now that the state of Shohei Ohtani is still unknown. Now he's going to play. He's in the starting lineup. He's batting leadoff. The left shoulder subluxation, it's a partial dislocation. That's not going to impact his swing. It's not going to impact him pitching next year. That's a positive. But is he going to be 80%? Is he going to be 75%? That sort of remains to be seen. And even if he is able to get on base, how much is his running game going to get slowed down? Is he going to be as aggressive on the base path? He already got cut down in game 2. He got cut down against the Mets as well. So his stolen base percentage has taken a hit as we've gone later into the year. As each pitch becomes more and more important, and the defense is aware that that extra base, that extra 90 feet is critical, he has not been stealing bases quite as successfully. Paul O'Neill throwing out. Is he throwing out the first pitch in game 4, or will he be kicking it? That remains to be seen. I would like to see him kick the ball to whoever is catching it. That would be the way to go. So game 3, must win. You must keep the ball away from Freddie Freeman's happy zone because he's now homered in 4 consecutive World Series games. Go back to 2021. Freddie homered in game 5 and game 6. He is now the 11th player to homer in games 1 and 2 of the World Series and joins 4 other Hall of Famers and 1 probable Hall of Famer. David Ortiz, Ted Simmons, Mickey Cochran, Jimmy Fox, and Barry Bonds in 2002. Also, this was a really, really great stat from Optus Stats. Along with his triple and walk-off grand slam in game 1, Freddie Freeman is just the 2nd player ever with at least 2 home runs and a triple within the first 2 games of the World Series, joining only Hall of Famer, inner circle Hall of Famer, Babe Ruth in 1923. So say what you will about Ohtani and Babe Ruth. Now we got Freddie Freeman and Babe Ruth in their own special club. Freeman also the 6th player with multiple home runs in the World Series with 2 different teams. Most recently, Corey Seager. You might have recalled him doing that last year along with during his time with the Dodgers. So we'll wait and see what happens here. Tommy Edman's still really hot. You got to keep the ball out of his happy zone. He's been incredible so far this postseason. 1160 OPS, 15 for 35 in October for Tommy Edman in the starting lineup once again. Batting 9th, despite the fact that he's been so good. He gave them that first run of the ball game on Saturday night. But you've got a right-handed pitcher on the mound, so he drops when there's a lefty on the hill. He moves up in the order. That's why Freeman is back up hitting 3rd on Monday night, and Teoscar slides down back to 4th, and he's now heating up after being really cold during that Mets series. I think he was 0 for 19 at one point. So this is a must-win game. This is a big one for the Yankees, and I think they're going to get it done and make this series that much more interesting. Might help out with the ratings just a little bit. The numbers in from game 1 were really solid. 15.2 million watched on Friday night. Yankees, Dodgers in game 1. The most for a World Series game since Astros-Dodgers in 2017. And the Dodgers, when they went in 2017, that was their first time in the World Series since 1988. So talk about a major boost. That's good company that this year's World Series is in right now, especially, again, as people are less and less inclined to sit down and watch one thing all the way through, especially on multiple days. The numbers for game 2, not as good, but still solid. 13.8 million for Saturday night. In Japan, 15.9 million people were watching. It's about 12.5% of Japan's population. It's about 12.5% of Japan's population. That's incredible. Overall viewership for game 1 up 62% over last year. Again, this is good for baseball. And we're all baseball fans here, I think. Might not be good for your team individually, but your team's already done. Your team is already out. There's no harm, no foul. Neither of these teams are really benefiting from being here going forward. Yeah, it does put a little bit of extra money in their coffers. Several million, sure. 10 to 15 million. But that's really a drop in a bucket for a lot of these teams. So that is what it is. Let's go to a couple of the comments before I head out here before you start watching some other pre-games, highlighting what's going to go down. What are the narratives for Game 3 of the 2024 World Series? Rockies fans, Teoscar, don't like him. He was a Dodger for 1 year, but he hit that opposite field home run. That's what upset Jay Cave. The hardcores know. Ace knows. Jonathan saying 8 a.m. in Japan. Yeah, that's kind of a good time in a way. It's not 5 a.m. You're already going to be up. You know, if your boss is cool, maybe you come in a little bit late. Maybe since the game's at 8 a.m., you just take a half day. That kind of works. You just stroll in at lunch. And then in a couple months, your kid gets sick. And I don't know, they got to stay home by themselves. You can't take care of them because you ran out of sick days because you're watching Ohtani in the World Series. Figure it out. But a lot of Japan has figured it out. This is a big World Series. And of course, Yamamoto got the start in Game 2. So probably a little bit of a dip in Japan for Game 3, though a lot of people very curious. What percentage of Ohtani are we going to get tonight? What kind of an impact will he make? Judge will most certainly make more of an impact than Ohtani. Put my money where my mouth is. He's got to. He seems like he's due. We don't know how banged up Ohtani is, but we know he likes stepping up in the spotlight. And will Aaron Judge get booed? I think there's a decent chance. What is it going to take for him to not get booed? What if he gets a single in his first at-bat, strikes out in his next 2 plate appearances? Is it back on again? It really depends on whether or not the Yankees are ahead or if they're trailing at that point in the game. Big props to Ace, Jonathan, Guillaume. Love you guys. Thanks for jumping into the chat, giving me some momentum. At Patrick D. Lyons on Twitter is where there's going to be more momentum on the social medias. Also at Patrick D. Lyons MLB in some other spots. Rockies Insider on YouTube. Make sure you're checking all that out. So, gents, appreciate you providing tons of momentum here just ahead of Game 3. But that momentum, as I like to say in the podcast world, momentum is only as good as my next show. So I'll talk to you later tonight